What's up, guys? Welcome back to another lesson for our sentence structure series. We're now on lesson 8. This is a special lesson because we're going to combine all the things we've learned so far in the previous lessons in order to expand our sentences. So, yes, we're going to be talking about sentence expansion. In this lesson, we're going to find out how we can make our sentences longer in a grammatically correct way. But first, do we need to make our sentences long? I guess that's the first question. Can't we just write short sentences all the time? In my experience as an English teacher, most students I have had write long sentences. They try to write down a lot of ideas or information in their sentences. There's no problem with that. They see long sentences written in the books they're reading, and because of that, they also want to do the same. The problem is they cannot combine their ideas well, and end up having run on sentences or even worse, sentences that are hard to understand. So, since most of you English learners want to write long sentences, I might as well teach you how to write them properly. Also, you cannot write simple sentences all the time, especially when it comes to academic writing. Where do you normally find simple sentences? In children's books, right? Since you're not going to be writing children's books, at least during your academic life, you might as well learn how to write sentences of different lengths: short, long, or very long. Also, in a practical sense, we always want to connect our ideas with connecting words. This is what we do when speaking, and this is what we do when we write as well. So, since you're already trying to write long sentences, you will do well to learn how to write them properly. Okay, enough introduction. Let's try expanding a simple sentence. So, this is the sentence that we will be working on throughout this whole video lesson. We must speak the truth at all times. So, in expanding this sentence, we have some options. We can add a reason, time reference, or condition. For these, we will have to use subordinating conjunctions. And I know you're familiar with them. And we can also add coordinating conjunctions, fanboys. So throughout the lesson, I'll just refer to them as fanboys, okay? Because that will be easier. Okay, let's start with a time reference so that we can provide some context for our sentence. We must speak the truth at all times when we talk to our friends. So we've just added a when clause and we put it in the last part of the sentence. Okay, now let's try adding a reason. Why must we speak the truth at all times? Because we want our friendships to be based on truth and not on lies. So our sentence becomes like this: we must speak the truth at all times when we talk to our friends because we want our friendships to be based on truth and not on lies. Okay, let's expand this further. Do you think we can add some condition? No, it's not possible because we already have a when clause. So if we want to go further in expanding this, we need to add another independent clause. So how do we do that? That's right, through fanboys. Let's see, what can we use? So we can't use for because we already have a because. For is also for reason. We can't use nor because that will require a completely different structure. We can use an and to add more information, or so for result. But I think I'd like to use but. Look at this. So we must speak the truth at all times, but we have to do it in a loving way. So you can see that when we add another independent clause through fanboys, we have to connect it to the independent clause, not to the dependent clauses. How do you check that? Try to remove the dependent clauses and see if if your sentence, we only have one, still makes sense. Let's try that. Yeah, there you go. We must speak the truth at all times, but we have to do it in a loving way. Even after removing the dependent clauses, our sentence still makes sense. That means our independent clause that starts with but is connected to our first independent clause in terms of meaning. Okay, now that we have another independent clause, we can add more dependent clauses to connect to it. Let's see. We can choose a reason, time reference, or a condition. But the most important thing right now is the meaning. So let's focus on the meaning. What is it that we want to say? Okay, let's try to add a condition. We must speak the truth at all times when we talk to our friends because we want our friendships to be based on truth and not on lies, but we also have to do it in a loving way if we want to get our message across. If you want to get our message across, we have to do it in a loving way. Okay, I hope that's clear. Now, I see the need to add kind of a reason or explanation. Let's do that. We must speak the truth at all times when we talk to our friends because we want our friendships to be based on truth and not on lies, but we have to do it in a loving way if we want to get our message across because our goal is not just to say the truth but to help each other grow. Okay, did you see that? So that's kind of, yeah, it's an explanation, um, but it's also a reason. Okay, now I want to add another clause to say that this statement actually comes from the Bible. So we can write as the Apostle Paul points out in Ephesians 4:15. So our sentence now becomes we must speak the truth at all times when we talk to our friends because we want our friendships to be based on truth and not on lies. We also have to do it in a loving way if we want to get our message across because our goal is not just to speak the truth, but to help each other grow, as the Apostle Paul points out in Ephesians 4:15. Now, this independent clause, as the Apostle Paul points out in Ephesians 4:15, is connected not to the independent clause, but to another dependent clause. So you can also do that if it is appropriate, but don't overdo it. Okay? We can go on and expand this. But I want to stop right here because I don't want to confuse you even more. So, with this example, let's talk about some things we need to remember when expanding our sentence. First, we only have two things. First, you have to make sure that each clause is connected to another clause. Let me repeat that. You have to make sure that each clause is connected to another clause within your sentence. I don't know if you saw that, but that's what we're trying to do. For example, when we talk to our friends is connected to we must speak the truth at all times, right? Also, because we want our friendships to be based on truth and not on lies, is connected to where? That's right. We must speak the truth at all times. But we also have to do it in a loving way. That's another clause, an independent clause. Where is it connected? Yeah, again, to our main clause, we must speak the truth at all times. Then, if we want to get our message across, is connected to where? That's right, our second independent clause, but we have to do it in a loving way. Because our goal is not just to speak the truth, but to help each other grow. Okay, where's that connected? Again, to our second independent clause, but we have to do it in a loving way. And finally, as the Apostle Paul points out in Ephesians 4:15, is connected to where? Yeah, so it's connected to our dependent clause because our goal is not just to speak the truth, but to help each other grow. Yeah, I had to go through all of the clauses. I know that's long, but I had to do that to help you understand that each clause should be connected to another clause, whether independent or dependent. Also, a lot of English language learners have a problem with this. Let me show you an example. Okay, let's say I have my main clause, we must forgive each other. Then I want to expand it. Sometimes this is how English learners would write. We must forgive each other. If we do not forgive each other, we give Satan the upper hand in our lives. So, what's the problem with this sentence? Can you guess? Okay, let's look at the clauses. We have two additional clauses. The first one, if we do not forgive each other, and the second, we give Satan the upper hand. The problem is, the second one is not connected to the first one. Did you notice that? Like, try to isolate them so you can see clearly. We must forgive each other if we do not forgive each other. What? Does it make sense? No, not at all. It is, however, connected to the third clause, an independent clause actually. So, what should we do? Since the first clause and the second clause are not connected, then we should separate them and start a new sentence. So, we can do it this way. We must forgive each other. If we do not forgive each other, we give Satan the upper hand in our lives. So there we go. We are able to separate them because the first clause and the second clause are not connected. So we have two sentences. Or if we want to connect them, here's what we can do. We can insert a because in the middle of them. We must forgive each other because if we do not forgive each other, or if we do not, we can just make it short, we give Satan the upper hand in our lives. Now they are connected. So that's what I'm saying when I said make sure all of your clauses in your sentences are connected to each other. Otherwise, just start a new one. Start a new sentence. Okay, the second thing that I want to point out when you're expanding your sentence is limit your independent clauses to just two. Like in our sentence, we only have two independent clauses, right? Can you identify them? We have we must speak the truth at all times and but we also have to do it in a loving way. So if you try to isolate them like what we did before, remove all the dependent clauses, they will still make perfect sense. We must speak the truth at all times, or we have to do it in a loving way. The way that we can make sure that we only have two independent clauses is to use only one of the fanboys in our sentence. Like here, we only have one but, right? Wait. You might say, no, we don't. We have another one in our because clause. Because our goal is not just to speak the truth, but to help each other grow. So we have two actually. That's right. But what is that doing? What is that but doing in that clause? It joins two infinitive phrases to speak the truth and to help each other grow. So you can use but or the other fanboys especially and, as long as you don't add another independent clause. Okay? You can use it to join words, phrases, but not use it to add another independent clause. Is that clear? Now, I acknowledge that other English teachers will say that you can add another independent clause in your sentence. So why am I saying that you only have to limit it to two? Yes, actually, they are right. Actually, you can, but for English learners, it can be really confusing. So that's the reason why I recommended only two independent clauses. Besides, you can just write another sentence, right? Okay, for the sake of demonstration, I want to show you an example so that you can see why I'm recommending only two independent clauses. So let's go back to our example. So if you want to add another independent clause, we can do it this way. We can add a so clause. We must speak the truth at all times when we talk to our friends because we want our friendships to be based on truth and not on lies. But we also have to do it in a loving way if we want to get our message across, because our goal is not just to speak the truth but to help each other grow, as the Apostle Paul points out in Ephesians 4:15. So we need to make sure that we always speak the truth in love when we talk to our friends. So we kind of added a conclusion. But personally, I think it's too much, considering that you can just add another sentence, which you can further expand if you want. So this way you won't confuse yourself and your readers as well. We can do it this way instead. Instead of using so, I used therefore for more emphasis, although they mean the same thing. So please remember that when expanding your sentence, limit your independent clauses to just two. Don't go beyond that. We can, however, add more dependent clauses if we want. Like we haven't added a relative clause or a noun clause yet, right? I don't see any need to do that with our sentence, but for the sake of practice, let's try. Perhaps we can add extra information about our friends using a relative clause. Again, it's not necessary, this is just for practice, okay? Let's do it this way. We must speak the truth at all times when we talk to our friends who are very dear to us. There you go, we have just added a relative clause. And with some of your sentences, it's necessary and helpful to do something like that. But with this example, it's super unnecessary. We just did it for practice. Okay, I think that's it. We can stop right here. And it's time for you to apply what you learned in this lesson. So for your assignment, I want you to try expanding this sentence. We must love one another. So I wanted to give you something similar to work on. So again, you should give a reason, condition, time references using our subordinating conjunctions, and use fanboys to write two independent clauses, and include relative clauses or noun clauses. Just a reminder, you will be writing one sentence only. I hope I made that clear. Alright, I'm so excited to see your sentence. God bless you.